Winter, spring, summer, fall, seasons change, we still keep it together.
Hey, Beverly Hills 90210 fans! Are you ready to dive deep, episode by episode, storyline by storyline, character by character, as we break down the making of your favorite zip code? With your hosts, Charles Rosen.
Did I say that?
Harry
This
Mullen.
heinous thing about the real person, and we're going, what? We're getting rid of this guy.
Pete Ferrero.
I'm feeling wonderful. Kathleen looks TV crush-worthy.
Like so many special guests. And all your questions. Live on the Beverly Hills 90210 show. Oh, yeah.
Well, here we are on the Beverly Hills 90210 show. Last-minute entry into an episode. Exciting stuff. Chuck and I just watched the Horsewoman episode, which is called Wild Horses. First off, Charles, how is everything in Venice? How's everything going?
Everything
It's very
in
rainy
Venice
here.
is very transitional. We are in the house in the Marina Peninsula only for another month and a couple of weeks. And then we'll be back here into Venice again.
Nice.
And we're going to really miss that beach. Running those dogs on the beach been a lot of fun. We should get some camera. I'll make sure that Karen takes a camera of us on the beach.
Yeah, you got to get some of
You
that.
can post it on the stuff. It's a lot of fun. And it's right down the way from Larry's, and we get to hang out with Larry a lot.
That's
but he'll
good.
be going back to Martha's Vineyard, and we'll be going back to Venice. So,
The
but
fun.
Pete, I am
The
just
vacation's over,
Wow.
Chuck. the marina vacation is over now.
It was a staycation. Well, it's a house. You know, a couple of you guys, Lisa and a few others have been to our house in Venice, and it's got a nice deck upstairs, and it's not a small house. It's not any by means a large or mansion house. You could get really 20 people in the house real easy to have a intimate party or something. At the house we're staying now, you can have 60.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's just proportionally big.
Yeah.
We took the outside, the main rooms, and filled them up, and we did. We had a fun Christmas Hanukkah party there, in back in December, and
Nice.
and it's just been really great being there. Although it's been a really cold winter. I mean,
it's raining. I don't know about you, but it's raining here again in Altadena, so it's just nonstop rain.
Oh, you've got it moved east, huh? No, we're done. Fortunately, sun is out.
Yeah,
very windy still. But,
yes.
I was going to walk the dogs on the beach, and instead with Larry, and instead we turned around and went the other way where the lagoon is.
Yeah,
which has been the hidden joy of staying where we're staying. Is because this is where the migrating birds come. And although Larry's pointed out that they seem to have left, at least they were here for a while.
Right.
I asked him, he said, they've left. There's a problem here. I said, well, there may be a problem, but the point is they leave. That's the point. They don't hang around, really.
All right. So this is an episode, by the way, that we have wanted to cover for some time. Now let's put this right here. You want to cover it because you wanted to needle me. A little bit. Yeah.
This is a needle one because
it's definitely a needling episode.
Subplot with Luke and the horse lady, as it were.
Which is her name is Anne, as we learned.
Anne. Right. So Anne's an interesting name choice, even.
I was going to say that is not someone we would hear in the world of Beverly Hills 90210. So
Correct.
Where did we get Anne from?
The generation that would be just slightly younger than I,
Yes.
older than the high school kids,
Definitely.
but someone was raised in a family that was pretty traditional in every sense of the word, and she had lived up to that. So also that there was a moneyed family. So
Sure.
the notion being that the episode, in one sense, pitching and putting together what we just saw, the Dylan part of it, the least successful part of it, was that, it's what he gets a lesson. He is angry, and he is untethered, and he is bored with this 2-girl thing here, and it's driving him
It's a
crazy.
big issue. The triangle is really in full throttle here. He takes off and his car breaks down, and he finds Anne riding on a horse. That's how we start off with this woman and
with his story, yeah.
Right.
And then there's a lot of other story. You have the resolution of Steve getting into trouble for the legacy key. The legacy key ends.
This is all good stuff. The stuff even what's going on with Diesel and Nikki Witt. Like there's some of that. There's the Brendan.
That subplot. When we have the guest star with David Arquette.
Yeah.
And but the backstory of the episode, really what carries the episode and what makes this, and it's twofold. One is that we started with the work on the ranch,
right?
And the first stuff that Bobby wrote. So
Bobby Roth is the director.
Let me go back to it. But the director's name is Bobby Roth, and Bobby Roth is. I believe I can say this safely because I've thought of this. Is that he's the person I've known longer than anyone but my sister. Now,
so you've known him your whole.
His father and my father were fraternity brothers at UCLA. We played catch when we were, school age park kids and sandlot baseball and.
So you've known this Bobby forever.
All the time, and then he, became a director and was always interested in that and politics and different things. Very indie and not at that point a television director,
right?
But and our kids were in the same class in the same school. And along with other people involved with 90210, other writers who I met, and a lot of the actors came out of the school. They were in the business, and they were there, and so you put it together that way. But Bobby, so he was going through some tough times. He and his wife were splitting up.
Okay. That gives some context to where we are. Yeah.
And so he wanted to work. He was getting in his life. He needed to get some LA work. He needed to be in LA. We had the show, and he had watched the show, and he thought he could give it a sense of style that it doesn't have. And
now I'm going to just when he said that to you, Chuck Rosen in 1990, whatever year this was, were you like, I don't think we really need that sense, or were you like, all right, well, I'll play along? What was your mind like when he threw that out there at you? And I have to ask you this because it is a special episode.
I try to think maybe he got, because we go back so far, a different thing. There was, remember 90210 was not a critic's darling.
Sure, that's fair.
So we never felt we were doing a successful television show, even when we were, at huge milestones. Sometimes we still had people who were the haters, and the haters really shouted loud. So it was like, I can make it that they'll like your show.
I got that. That makes sense to me now.
Looking at that 2020 hindsight, that's probably where I was vulnerable.
Definitely makes sense.
But, because otherwise, but the idea being that, doing horses and getting Dylan on the road and stuff like that, again, that was to satisfy Luke, who also, this was a kind of a little bit of a time of discontent and confusion in the cast. I mean, Shannon had been acting out. Yeah. This episode, and this isn't being told anything to belittle, it was a long time ago, but this is the forum for what really did go on.
Sure,
and it isn't
exactly
too much malice, but it was an interesting time. It certainly was. And if I had been written the book, it would have been a lot of verbiage on it. But this was a period of time. This was around in the fall, in October of 93. And I had been invited by the National Association of Broadcasters to be their guest speaker at their annual luncheon in Washington, D.C. talk about kids and television. And then that we parlayed that into spending coming to a dinner at Harvard University with my friend Jay Winston, who was head of the public communication department and was one who did, public service messages. And so he was the one that, the designated driver is that he made popular and made shows do that. That was really all Jay. And we were a show tailor-made because we had messages. Squash It Directly comes from that. But as do other things. But Jay invites me to speak there at Harvard, and Karen meets me that night, and then Jay gets us a weekend in Vermont. The only time Karen and I ever went to Vermont.
Yeah,
at a house up there near one of the really nice ski lift towns. And stuff. But it was October, and literally it got cold. It was a very warm, almost climate change, precursor here. It's very not the weather, but it got very cold that weekend we were up there, and the leaves actually turned in front of our eyes.
Wow.
We drove up from Cambridge on that Friday morning. They weren't there. Coming back Sunday, they were everywhere.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really amazing to see like that. And against that backdrop,
so you're away. You're out of town. You're out of town when this episode.
Bye, baby. Bye. Paul runs the show. I'm gone. But Paul wasn't there either, because Paul was having there was things going on in his personal life, so he really wasn't there. Jim Weber.
It's not the day. It's not the days of dailies being.
Actually, Paul was there. I'm wrong. Anyway, I thought it would. Shannon wanted Brenda to be much sexier than I felt comfortable playing her.
Okay.
She's a high school student, and if you look back now at this episode, and you look both at Shelley, at Kelly, Brenda, and Donna, not any of them look like a high school student.
I mean, they all look incredible. But yes, I know what your point is.
They don't look like a high school student. It was a high school show.
Right.
And the push was we want to be more and more and more. And I had already Dylan going off and doing his adult thing. So here's a first-time director, or the writer. And
director. Bobby Roth is first time directing 90210 probably as well. So he's
exactly. And a director has a quick swath to do different things and how he's going to do it and the things he's going to do differently. And they started with material. And so anyway, I don't want to go back to that, but but relative right now with the story with Brenda, she had to do some dental work, and instead she got a boob job. And
in this episode, she's missing there's a space. We've seen that sometimes with Brenda where there's a space with her teeth, right?
And she, but she didn't go. Instead, she really did get the job, and she showed up in outfit that was way too sexy. It was way too sexy for someone.
How do you find out about it?
School, because and the reason that I got this material to look at while I'm in Vermont on my fucking vacation is because the first dailies that came out of Bobby Roth's filming at the ranch was frighteningly off from what we needed as a TV show. I'll say it that's the only kind to do it, because Bobby would be shooting in extreme close-up. And his first scene, remember that guy, that kind of ranch hand?
Yeah.
Who walked by
comes up and talks and asks Dylan a question. Yeah.
He had two scenes.
More than that. Yeah. Because he just comes out of nowhere. So he had two additional scenes.
No. I'm telling you, he had two scenes that got completely cut.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And there were these odd angles and different things. And that's the first thing that gets showed to me. And the question is, what are we going to do about him? Kenny Miller, the producer, sends me the material, gets it to me in Vermont
overnight.
And I look at it, and And I realized, because we can have a director standing by ready to go Monday, and we had to know that by Saturday. I had to make the decision because we had 2 days of dailies. It was 2 days. That subplot took 2 days to do.
So you're sitting in Vermont after a beautiful couple of days, and you get the dailies back, and here we have 2 days for you to go through of all this close-up, extreme close-up stuff.
Yeah, but there also, he wants me to see the last day, the day that was at the Peach Pit too, because it was better. But and I'm looking at it and I'm freaking out because she's too sexy. She's too sexy for my show. It was not something I understood. I understood why it was an attempt to be that. Didn't want to push it that forward, but that we weren't out of high school yet.
Right, I understand. College might have been more acceptable. You might have been down with
college,
things.
Forget it.
Yeah,
college, free love.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, so that was something that caused a stir. We don't have to get into that, but we did do some reshooting, and we left a lot of stuff on the floor. So
what did you think about Bobby Roth? And then I'm sure you thought
Bobby's a fine director. He's had a wonderful career. He teaches master's classes now. He's had 100 credits. He had great indie movies. But nothing with Bob. Just the show was wrong. It was not a good fit. And,
but did you think about?
He wasn't an episodic director at that point.
He was new to 90210 too. So it's a lot of different things, But
yeah, it wasn't a show. It wasn't It wasn't something for him to have really done, but we did it to do. It was a thing done out of friendship.
Did you think about removing him from the episode?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the third day was good, and the rest of the episode was good in this. He got carried away, and we were out of the zone. It was too much outside on the zone there, and too much of doing it his way and this, and it wasn't our TV show. It was a mistake. But I always thought that, boy, it made the episode bad, and it didn't really. It just made this plot very unsatisfying. But better that it be unsatisfying and short,
yes,
than long. But at the same time, there is a message here, and that is, money can't buy you love.
It's when I remember this episode, I remember it feeling longer.
I'll buy you a diamond ring, my friend, if it makes you feel all right. Give you anything.
It feels longer than actually what it was, because when you think about the episode, we had a lot of the other subplots in, more so than we had the horsewoman.
Right, but that was not. If I got out the script right now, and somebody and I looked that up, you would see the original pages were a lot more of talky about this story and feeling.
The horse and the shadow and whatever the horse's name was and all that stuff. I'm sure there's lots of dialogue about the horse and right, because
I think also your feelings and
I got you. What about casting Anne?
That was she didn't read. That was Bobby's friend.
That was Bobby's friend, Alice Creek.
Yeah.
I don't feel, and I don't know her, but she does not, like I said this in the watch along, we're used to seeing Dylan being chased by two beautiful girls, and not that Anne is not. She's a beautiful older woman, but it's not what we are used to seeing weekly on that show. Every week we've built Brenda, Dylan, Kelly, and now there's this other girl, so it definitely throws you off.
Yeah, it just was the push that the guys were older, they were looking older, they wanted to play, they wanted to get that across rather than be Tiger Beat high school kid.
Yeah.
and Luke had just slammed us in print for keeping him.
Well, I was going to add that you mentioned a couple things we didn't say, you said in the watch along, but the setup of this is that Luke has just done 8 Mile. Is that it? 8 seconds? What is
8
it?
seconds.
8 seconds, excuse me. 8 seconds. And then he's got an article out, right? Is what you were saying.
Yeah, in Vanity Fair, he had his interview he was critical of us guys, the writers. And at the time, it really stung because we didn't get the this was the national publicity. This was the cool cats.
Right.
You know, the New York Times wrote about us, but the New Yorker didn't. In fact, I think that we talked about on this podcast relative to when Luke passed away, that he got a tribute in the New Yorker that was really beautifully written. And the New Yorker never mentioned us once when we were on the air. Nor would I have expected it to.
Right.
That we got the LA Times, the New York Times to do us well was great, because both the LA Times, the Washington Post did not. You know.
So he says this, and now you want to give him something that he can, you know, I think you don't like to be around actors, but you're definitely actor friendly, and you want to give your leads and the people that
look at the whole storyline with Brian, you know, as David Silver. It's all a music storyline.
So you always are looking to give.
Actor is coming to you saying, "This is what I want to do. This is what I can do. I really love to do this," and you can accommodate that on a show like what we had. Go.
Let's do it. I mean, and so for Luke, it was westerns and cowboys and all that kind of stuff. And so this would tie in perfectly with the movie that he's got coming out. And so that's why this happened, essentially.
Yeah. A little tie into the movie. I think that's exactly true. And who he was.
We also note in this episode, moving off the horse situation, the horse thing, that Nikki Witt, Dana Barron, gets a moment with David Arquette alone on the screen, where we don't see we don't see Dylan, or we're going to see Brandon in a second, but they get some screen time alone. That's not something that we normally see. So was it something about Dana and David, or what? Why do you think that happened?
Well, we had to make the story plausible.
Right.
And so you had to get to know that there was a depth of a relationship there. And yes, at that point, Nikki Witt was a character. Nikki Witt was Brandon's girlfriend, and there wasn't any other dimension to her than that.
Right.
But hey, guess what? There is more of a dimension, and this is this. And we learn these other things about her, including that, you know, she was, harassed up there in the Bay Area by this loser guy, this musician.
I mean, there's a lot of good stuff there between the two of them. I think she's a fantastic actress, and I think they deliver really nicely in those scenes. I think that she had a nice smile.
Dana had a really nice smile back in, she still does, but back in the day, and was very. She and Jason got along really well.
It's a testament to her that she could carry that scene as the 90210. Guest star main character. She could carry a scene with David Arquette, that with no Jason and no Ian, no Tori, none of them, that she was able to do that.
The show was comfortable in itself. Yeah.
I mean, and she was somebody at some point. Did you know at this point that what was happening with college? Did you know she was not going to be included in whatever you were thinking maybe for next season?
That's right. She wasn't factoring into our plans.
So you knew that. So it wasn't like you were trying to give her a little screen time and just in case you decided to do something with her.
I can't remember that element of it. I mean, I think we all enjoyed it. I think, I can't remember why. Did she have another commitment? She may have. We had to, write her out. I mean, we all enjoyed it. But at that point, the kind of, that only happened once, where we started out with something and then went, oh my gosh, no, this has to be a weekly occurrence, and that was with Kathleen.
Yeah, and she's told me that too. Yeah,
so she just she just burst in, and we could write for her. What more, Nikki? What were we going to do? And we wanted to keep everybody open for what. College.
Also, though, Chuck, in fairness too, like they all went to California University. Like Nikki Witt couldn't also have gone there as well. At some point, it would have been a little bit ridiculous that everybody that we knew.
We did the one. We went with that.
Yeah. I mean, we got Brian there, or we got David there. Then I was going to say the other stuff that's here is a lot of conflict with Kelly and Brenda. That's really well written stuff, and there's some nice chemistry between the two actresses as they're trying to mend fences. Right. What did you think of some of that stuff?
I just because I knew we would be talking about this and different and this aspect of it. I was looking really at their physical beauty, and how they looked to me more too adult, and that was the notion of it. We didn't really sit down and that was it. I think Paul was there for the production meeting, but not there for the shoot, and the UPM wasn't paying that much attention.
The fact that you're also away must really factor into how big of a situation it felt to you at the time. If you were there in LA, you could have maybe reacted quicker and been involved, but you're 3,000 miles away, plus maybe 3,500 miles away. So you're getting tapes 2 days later. You must have been extremely frustrated. Not only was it just their appearance, but there was also all this stuff with the horse and the tight shots and all this other stuff. So it was like a total mess all at once.
Well, it was problematic. It was a problem. We had a problematic couple of days, but no, we had you're making a television show, things shit happens. I mean, we didn't say it like that then, and
no,
and we're so cavalier about it, believe me. But at the same time, it was just, it just we just had to remain true to being a high school series for a few more months, and then because we also threw in everything with Dylan McKay and Dylan McKay's father. That's where the melodrama was going right now. So we were setting all of that up too.
I mean, and I know this person's a friend of the show, so if you don't want to answer this question, but does Diane Kennedy come into play in this conversation about what they were wearing? She would have been the approval of the outfits, yes or no?
Well, there wasn't. It walked out on the set. I don't remember what exactly was being taken advantage of at that moment. Quite frankly, I'm not sure Diane was there. I'm not sure Paul was there. I'm not sure I was there. I think they were able to slip through that way.
Got it.
And it was really, or whatever it was. It just was. It was okay. And I'm not saying. I mean, I don't have the footage to show you, but you saw how elegant she looked in the black.
Oh, I mean, she looks fantastic in this.
Imagine now. That the goal wasn't to look elegant; it was to look sexy.
Yeah, I got it.
And we're still. I couldn't get. Brenda was still needing to be the one who do the Monsieur Ric. And
she's also giving advice to her brother about the situation that's happening with his girlfriend and all that. So, and there's going to be the smacking and all. So she has to look a little bit high school, sisterly, a part of the universe.
That was part of the universe. That was part of the deal. But anyway, it was a big brouhaha, and it was this episode. But so we had two things going on at once. But no, it was just, it was par for the course. Yeah, part of it was, why can't I ever have it? But, I would have that in, it's interesting. At one point, we went on this vacation, and then later on in the spring, right before commencement, actually, when the other episodes were going, Karen and I took like 5 days off, 6 days off. We went to Jamaica.
I'm sure there was problems. You can't go to Jamaica, Chuck. What are you thinking?
No, we did, and we were okay. No, it was not. Some good stuff, Steve and Jess. Nice. The night to remember and things like that. We were coming. Whenever it was, we were okay to do it. But I think I've even mentioned this on the podcast before. We were down in Jamaica, and people found out that these two women who are a little older than us find out that we do the show, and they're saying how much they're fans of the show. And one of them says, except when they do those lame, in effect says, especially except when they do those lame things like the talking stars with the angels, and Karen and I are like, oh yeah,
we are the talking stars, essentially. Yeah. And then the other thing,
what I remember from the whole trip,
The thing from the other thing is Steve Sanders is here, and this is the legacy key is coming to a head. Right. I didn't remember that because I skip this episode all the time, but I didn't remember him confessing like this, but he definitely does do that. What did you think about that element of this episode?
Well, he realized he was going to be sold out anyway.
Yes.
And it makes him, realize what his situation. And I like that he apologizes. I mean, I think it's a part of the 12-step program that meaningful. There's one person in Hollywood I've never run into, but I know that I'm going to ask him why he didn't call me. Because I heard he went in a 12-step program, and you have to apologize to all the people you've wronged.
Right. He did not. But
he didn't call me. Never heard from you. But yeah, so so I feel that's a part of it.
It's also part of the charm of the Steve Sanders character that he can come back from his scams, and we'll do the scams of Steve Sanders at some point, but that there is a charm and a goodness to his character that he does not get off on this.
That's where I believe the next episode picks up on that.
Yeah. He's not looking to really
fool around with the PA, I think, because he's got to tell his mother he's been kicked out of school and they're doing a Christmas special.
Melanie Smith.
It's actually funny. I think Steve and Jess got us out of this problem.
Lastly, Donna, I think, looks great in this episode, and she's always the peacemaker, and we see a lot of really nice stuff of Tori here trying to situate and there's also Steve managing David's career, which you mentioned as well, and Steve's character sort of like, wanting to help him at the end and making amends with everybody. So even in that music direction,
28, 29 episodes. You got to have story.
Yep. All right. This is good. Let me ask you now, you've rewatched it. And this is one that, it is slammed. People say it's not great. The stuff with Dylan and the horsewoman stuff is really tough. But what did you think about it rewatching it?
Well, it seems like a television show that was made many, many moons ago. Just stylistically, because of how things have changed and stuff like that. But I think it was. I think the episode, all of it, holds together. But it's not one that is going to. We're going to think about on a rainy night. It's not one of those. No.
It's unfortunate because if while Pluto and all those places are stripping things, if they stripped the horse scenes, have at it, because that episode's really solid without it. You know what I mean? But that one is one that you could probably still find, I'm sure. No, well, but there is actually a lot of music stuff, so I actually don't know.
In this one, yeah, the music didn't make any. No, I didn't hear much music.
Well, David sings. Diesel has a performance.
Oh, right. I meant licensed music.
No, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that stuff's probably all gone, I would imagine.
I would think so.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been great. I thought the episode was not as bad as I remember it.
All right, that's a big compliment. Yeah. Someone who was worried about the.
Yeah,
I even used a different route. I became Chazzarooney tonight.
Yeah. It was as bad as I remember it. I mean. Maybe the worst of it is the dinner scene where they're all sort of haggling.
They're talking about money
and horses, and it's not gambling either. It's selling a horse on the farm. Like it's not sexy by any means.
Well, There was a lot more plot there, and there's a lot more stuff, and the Bobby wrote and Luke performed, and never to be seen by anybody.
Right.
Okay,
that's it. Wait, do you have the script would have all that stuff in it?
I might be, probably not.
Yeah.
Probably reduced it. Some of them it's hard to say. I've got look at all the scripts right here.
I would love to read that one. I'm not even someone who does that, like with old scripts, but I would love to read the rest of that subplot to see, or the Dylan plot to see where that was going. So if you find it.
You, Pete, I can send it to you. I'll do that.
Amazing.
Melanie asked me for one, and I never got it to her.
Oh, it's okay. She'll survive. She's really focused on the yellow jackets right now. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. This has been
All
great,
right.
Chuck. Thank you for your time here today. Can't wait to get this one up there and get people talking. So
Take care.
I'll see you soon. All right. Bye.